entity has by chance fallen into this material existence. By his personal endeavor in association with authorities, saintly persons, and a spiritual master, he has to understand his position and then revert to spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness by understanding Bhagavad Gita as it is, explained by the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Then it is certain that he will never come again into this miserable existence. He will be transferred into the spiritual world for a blissful eternal life of knowledge. Just imagine a blissful eternal life for knowledge. Wow. Will be transferred to the spiritual world for a blissful eternal life of knowledge. Just see what is possible if we become seriously Krishna conscious. Text 25. Dhyane natmani pasyanti kechid atmanam atmana anye sakin yena yogena karma yogena chapare. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Some perceive the supersoul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. In other words, engaging in devotional service for the Lord with no fruitive desires. Purport. The Lord informs Arjuna that the conditioned souls can be divided into two classes as far as man's search for self-realization is concerned. Those who are atheists, agnostics, and skeptics are beyond the sense of spiritual understanding. In other words, they're not going to understand anything about Krishna consciousness. The atheists, the agnostics. The difference between an atheist and agnostic is atheist is definitely anti-Krishna, 100%. Agnostics are people who are in the middle. They're not quite sure if they're going to go this way or that way. They're always, in the middle. Some a little bit Krishna consciousness, maybe, and a little bit nonsense. And the skeptics are people that don't have faith. They are always what you would call uh, not very amenable to understanding things. They're always skeptical. Okay, so those who are atheists, agnostics, and skeptics are beyond the sense of spiritual understanding. But there are others who are faithful in their understanding of spiritual life, and they are called introspective devotees, philosophers, and workers who have renounced fruitive results. Very important. Renounced fruitive results. Those who always try to establish the doctrine of monism are also counted among the atheists and agnostics. In other words, only the devotees of the Supreme Personality Godhead are best situated in spiritual understanding because they understand that beyond this material nature are the spiritual world and the Supreme Personality Godhead, who is expanded as the Paramatma and Supersoul in everyone, the all-pervading Godhead. Of course, there are those who try to understand the Supreme Absolute Truth by cultivation of knowledge, and they can be counted in the class of the faithful. Sankhya philosophers analyze this material world into 24 elements, and they place the individual soul as the 25th item. When they are able to understand the nature of the individual soul to be transcendental to the material elements, they're able to understand also that above the individual soul, there is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the 26th element. There it is. Gradually, they also come to the standard of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Those who work without fruitive results are also perfect in their attitude. They are given a chance to advance to the platform of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Here it is stated that there are some people who are pure in consciousness and who try to find out the supersoul by meditation. And when they discover the supersoul within themselves, they become transcendently situated. Similarly, there are others who also try to understand the Supreme Soul by cultivation of knowledge. And there are others who cultivate the Hatha Yoga system and who try to satisfy the Supreme Personality Godhead by childish activities, in other words, foolish activities. Text 26. Anye Trevam Ajananta Shrutvam Ye Vyaya Upasate Tipi Chati Taranti Eva Mrityam Shruti Parayana. This is text chapter 13, text 26. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. So very important to hear the uh, the bona fide devotees explain Krishna consciousness. In that way, hearing from such genuine devotees, one can transcend the path of birth and death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This verse is particularly applicable to modern society because in modern society there is practically no education in spiritual matters. That's true. Some of the people may appear to be atheistic or agnostic or philosophical, but actually there is no knowledge of philosophy. As for the common man, if he is a good soul, then there is a chance for advancement by hearing. This hearing process is very important. Lord Chaitanya, who preached Krishna consciousness in the modern world, gave great stress to hearing because if the common man simply hears from authoritative sources, he can progress, especially according to Lord Chaitanya. If he hears the transcendental vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It is stated, therefore, that all men should take advantage of hearing from real life souls and gradually become able to understand everything. The worship of the Supreme Lord will then undoubtedly take place. Lord Chaitanya has said that in this age, no one needs to change his position, but one should give up the endeavor to understand the absolute truth by speculative reasoning. One should learn to become the servant of those who are in knowledge of the Supreme Lord. If one is fortunate enough to take shelter of a pure devotee, hear from him about self-realization, and follow in his footsteps, one will be gradually elevated to the position of a pure devotee. In this verse, particularly, the process of hearing is strongly recommended, and this is very appropriate. Although the common man is often not as capable as so-called philosophers, faithful hearing from an authoritative person will help one transcend this material existence and go back to Godhead, back to home. So it's a very nice statement. Faithful hearing. That means that you hear with great faith and dedication, and you'll be able to understand what is very difficult for most people to understand. That is spiritual knowledge. Most people who are still engaged in sinful activities have a difficult time to understand spiritual knowledge. But if one is faithfully hearing from an authoritative person. This will help one transcend the material existence and go back to Godhead, back to home. Text 27. The chief of the Bharatas know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Both material nature and the living entity, which were existing before the creation of the cosmos, are explained in this verse. Whatever is created is but a combination of the living entity and material nature. There are many manifestations like trees, mountains, and hills, which are not moving. And there are many existences which are moving, and all of them are but combinations of material nature and the superior nature, the living entity. The living entity is the superior nature. Without the touch of the superior nature, the living entity, nothing can grow. The relationship between material nature and spiritual nature is eternally going on, and this combination is affected by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, He, meaning Krishna, is the controller of both the superior and inferior natures. The material nature is created by Him, and the superior nature is placed in this material world. And thus, all these activities are manifestations, and manifestations take place.
We should do, Maharaj.
Okay, one more. Text 28. Samam sarvesu bhutesu tishtantam parameshwaram vinasyatsva avinasyam tam ya pasyati cha pasyati. One who sees the supersoul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the supersoul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Anyone who by good association can see three things combined together, the body, the proprietor of the body or the individual soul, and the friend of the individual soul, that is Krishna, is actually in knowledge. Unless one has the association of a real knower of spiritual subjects, one cannot see these three things. Those who do not have such association are ignorant, and they simply see the body and they think that when the body is destroyed, everything is finished. But actually, it is not so. Now, see, that's the validation that we never actually die. After the destruction of the body, both the soul and the supersoul exist, and they go on eternally in many various moving and non-moving forms. The Sanskrit word parameshwaram is sometimes translated as the individual soul, because the soul is the master of the body, and after the destruction of the body, he transfers to another form. In that way, he is master. But there are others who interpret this Parameshwara to be the supersoul. In either case, both the supersoul and the living entity, and the individual soul continue. They are not destroyed. One can see in this way. One who can see in this way can actually see what is happening. People. Text 29. Samam pasyam sarvatra samavastitam ishwaram na inasti atmanatmanam tatoyati param gatim. One who sees the Supersoul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus, he approaches the transcendental destination. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The living entity, by accepting his material existence, has become situated differently than in his spiritual existence. But if one understands that the Supreme is situated in his Paramatma manifestation everywhere, that is, if one can see the presence of the Supreme Personality Godhead in every living thing, he does not degrade himself by a destructive mentality, and he therefore gradually advances to the spiritual world. The mind is generally addicted to sense gratifying processes. But when the mind turns to the super soul, one becomes advanced in spiritual understanding. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, we'll stop right there. Are there any questions or comments anyone would like to make about what we have heard today? Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna, Maharaj.
Yes.
Let's see here. In the purport where it says, if one can see the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living thing, he does not degrade himself. Can you explain that?
Sure. So, in every body, there is the super soul and the living entity. If you can understand through Bhagavad Gita that the super soul in the body is the witness of everything that takes place in that body, then you become a real person and you become self realized. You understand that in your body, God or Krishna is present as the super soul, and the super soul is uh, trying to guide you if you're, open to it, and the super soul is always ready to help you in every way to make spiritual advancement. Now, if you're engaged in sinful activities only, then there's not much the super soul will do. But if he sees even a little bit of interest in knowing what is the purpose of life, the super soul will do everything possible to help you understand your relationship with Krishna. Okay, so and can you reread? Can you say what you wanted me to explain?
Yes. He does not degrade himself. Does he mean here like integrity?
Well, integrity is part of it, but degrade oneself by engaging in sense gratification. As soon as a person engages in sense gratification, they lose all ability to understand Krishna.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah. Okay, I think we'll stop right there because I'm going to go to the temple now. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Maha Mantra
Ki